Okay, now we left off in Genesis chapter 27. What verse was that?
We left off at 28.
Oh, 28. 28.
27, 28.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be master over your brothers and let your mother's sons down to you. Cursed be those cursing you, and blessed be those blessing you.
Okay, stop right there. So now you see, he promised, he gave Yaakov the blessing that would have been Esau's blessing. But he verbalized it and laid hands on Yaakov and said, let your mother's son, now what he said, let your mother's son, right, bow down to you. So Esau didn't want that. Now come on, he the oldest. By let your mother's son bow down to you. Now let's get forward, because see, this is why Esau was mad. This is why Esau made an alliance with the other nations, all those that were actually Abraham's children, and or they that were part of the covenant family. Like Lot was Abraham's cousin, I think it was nephew, Abraham's nephew, which by right gives him a right. I believe it's right. Lot was Abraham's nephew, right?
Son.
Yeah, Lot was Abraham's nephew.
I think you have to plug up your phone.
Okay, all right, it's plugged up. Okay, Lot. Okay, let's see something. Let's clarify something here. Wait, before we go there, let's just continue with the story. So Esau, so Yaakov was blessed with the blessing that was supposed to be originally for by merit from the father, from Esau. It was supposed to be his, but it was given to Yaakov that his brothers would be a servant to him. Right now, since his brothers was to be a servant, now Esau comes back around. And start at verse 30. Verse 30.
And it came to be, as soon as this son had finished blessing Yaakov, and Yaakov had partly left the presence of Yitzchak his father, that Esau came in from his hunting. And he too had made a tasty dish and brought it to his father, and said to his father, let my father rise and eat of his son's wild game, so that your blessing might bless me. And his father Yitzchak said to him, who are you? And he said, I am your son, your firstborn, Esau. Then Yitzchak trembled exceedingly and said, who was it then who hunted wild game and brought it to me? And I ate all of it before you came, and I have blessed him. He is blessed. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, bless me too, O my father. And he said, your brother came with deceit and took your blessing. And Esau said, was the name then called Yaakov? For he has caught me by the heel these 2 times. He took my birthright, and see, now he has taken my blessing. And he said, have you not reserved the blessing for me? Then Yitzchak answered and said to Esau, see, I have made him your master, and all his brothers I have given to him as servants.
Read that again. Read that again. He said he had made him what? What verse was that?
That's 37. I have made him your master, and all his brothers I have given to him as servants. And I have sustained him with grain and wine. And what then shall I do for you, my son?
So now, okay, that's good. That's good right there. So now Esau was made to be the servant, but by the oracle of his father Isaac, blessing Yaakov, thinking that he was
Esau.
He had cursed Esau to be a servant under Yaakov. So now Esau didn't like that, so we went over on a lesson last Shabbat, me and my Isha in our private time, that Esau was taken he was taken out by that, and he went into other nations and tried to come. He established himself a nation. He did. He really had a kingdom. And so we see that, and so that's the reason why now we understand. Oh, the light comes on now. Now we understand now why the people of the Philistines, the Palestinians, was fighting against the children of Israel, because Esau had established an empire amongst the Moabites, Ammonites, Philistines, and all those people to do what? To take back his birthright. Now, as a Christian, I couldn't understand why was Goliath fighting against Israel. What was so important? Why was the Philistines fighting against the Israelites? Because now, when you think about it, from a modern day perspective, the Philistines, the Palestinians, are the ancient Edomites. So you ask the question, who are the modern day Edomites? A lot of them are Philistines, Palestinians. Still living in the land of that. So we now call people Esau that may not even have any relationship to Esau, but because we got a hatred towards a person's skin color, we want to make them Esau. But Palestine, the Philistine, which we read in the text earlier, they were the ones that King Dawid had whipped up on. And the Aramaic people, what King James calls them, Syrians, right? Because Esau had made an alliance with those people as well. Why? To come against the people of Israel. He even made alliances with the people of Egypt, the Egyptians, who later became conquered by the Greeks. And since Esau's people was in an alliance with them, guess what happened? The Greeks conquered. How you like that? Now, let's go to Psalms chapter 80. Psalms chapter 80, Tehillim, chapter 80. I'm gonna have to do something because I'm getting feedback with this phone. My battery's about to be dead. So just give me a second here. Let me try to see if I can rectify this. There we go. All right. Okay, Psalms 80, chapter, Psalms chapter
8 or 8?
80. Psalms 80.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, speak up. Psalms 83.
Okay.
Start at verse 1. Very popular. This is a very popular Hebrew Israelite scripture that everybody in Israel knows, but now it's going to make some sense. It's going to open up to you, okay? Psalms 83, chapter 1.
O Elohim, do not remain silent. Do not be speechless, and do not be still, O El. For look, your enemies make an uproar, and those hating you have lifted up their head. They craftily plot against your people and conspire against your treasure fund. They have said, come and let us wipe them out as a nation, and let the name of Israel be remembered no more. For they have conspired together with one heart. They have made a covenant against you of Edom and the Ishmaelites, Moab and the Hagarites, Gilgal and Ammon and Amalek, Philistia, with the inhabitants of Zor. Asher also has joined with them. They have helped the children of Lot, Selah. Do to them as to Midian, as to Sarah, as to Jabin, as the Wadi, Kishon, who perished at Endor, who became as dung for the ground. Make the nobles like Oreb, and like Zeeb, and all their princes like the Bar, and Salmanan.
Okay, that's good. Okay, that's good. Sorry, that's good. That's good. All right, now, what did we just read? Okay, I always say, and my Isha tell you, I say this to her honey, what did we just read? We did a lot of reading, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Key is, when you read, let's read with an understanding, okay? Because people say, brother, I read the Bible every year. Do you read with understanding? Because I mean, I know a lot of Christians that read the Bible through every year. And when you listen to their doctrine, you're like, man, really not reading with understanding. They just reading it like a novel, so they don't understand. So let's look at this and let's get an understanding, okay? All right. You say, brother, you the only one that can give person understanding? No, I didn't say that. But one thing I will say is that when I do present something, I try to get an understanding and help you to have an understanding. That's my goal, right? Not just to have you read something and now I want the light to pop on when you get fan. Oh, now I see. You know, yeah. See how my eyes got big? I want the light to pop on. You say, oh, now I understand. Okay, I understand now. Okay, now. This was a song, a futuristic song that, because this was during the time, okay, Esau was one of the writers, right? Now, historically, well, I'm not gonna get into that because let's just go back. But this was written, a prophecy of what was to come and what had already began and started with the conspiracy to Israel, against Israel. So he said, verse 5, they have consulted. Now who is the they? He said they, he gonna tell you who these they are in this chapter. But he said they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee, meaning against the Most High. Because why? The Most High's covenant is at stake. Because he promised a blessing through a specific seed, right? Now, he said the tabernacles of Edom, which is Esau's twin brother, which is Jacob's twin brother, which is what we just read, where he got the blessing that Esau, by merit as being the firstborn, would have had under normal circumstances. That was the Most High's doing, because the Most High already promised that Jacob was going to get the blessing anyway. If that meant that Esau had to die, something would have happened. He would have got the blessing, okay? So, Rivka didn't have to play the trickster in that situation, but she did, because she did like Sariah did, trying to help the Most High out. All right, so Edom and the Ishmaelites. Now, Ishmael, as we have read in the story, is the son of Abraham through who? Hagar, the Egyptian. Now, do you think it's strange that Esau went into Egypt? Because we read that in the first Chronicles, where his son had fled to Egypt, and after the death of the King David, he came back in the land. Cause he's like, man, that dude, boy, he's a terrible, terrible army general, man. I won't live if I go in the land. So he fled to Egypt. And when he found out that King David was dead, let's go there right quick. Oh, keep your finger there, Psalms 83, honey. Let's go to First Chronicles. First Kings chapter 11. All right. Let's go to chapter 21, because now we're bringing this thing home, because we got to understand, brothers and sisters, when we talk about the Ishmaelites, their mother was an Egyptian, so where was their territory? North Africa, Northeast Africa, in the land of Egypt, Kemet, all of that was their territory, because he became a ruler of kingdoms. So people say, well, who are the Ishmaelites today? Are they the Arabs that's over there in the Middle East? Heck to the no. No, they're not. Because the North African people that live in the so-called North Africa are Arabs, they are dark-complected black Arabs, and they don't call themselves Africans. They call themselves Arabs. For example, you can go and do some research on a country called Chad, right? Chad is an Arab country where there are dark-complected Arabs that live there. Now, the terminology Arab actually only means a mixture, crossing a crossbreed or a mongrel race of people. But Ishmael is actually an Arab because he's a mixture between the Egyptians and the Hebrews, Abraham and Hagar. So now, go to 1 Kings chapter 11 and verse.
It says 21.
1 Kings chapter 11, verse. What did I say? 21. Okay.
21.
Okay, verse 21. Go ahead and read verse 21.
And Hadad heard in Mizraim that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab, the commander of the army, was dead. And Hadad said to Pharaoh, "Let me go to my land."
Stop right there. Now, who is Hadad? Or Hadad, or however you want to say it.
Hadad.
He is the seed of Esau. When he found out that David was dead, he said, "Let me go to my land." Why was he in Egypt? Because his cousins lived there, the Ishmaelites. You see how this is working now? Does it make sense, honey?
Yes, it's making sense.
Huh?
Yes.
So Esau went to Egypt because he became a confederate with his cousin Ishmael. Okay? Now, Ishmael was his actually great cousin because his father, Esau's father, Isaac's father, Abraham, had Ishmael, which would have been his sons. I don't know, he might have been a great uncle or something. I have to look at his lineage, but some people can tell that in a second. But I think he was a great uncle or a cousin or something like that. He was kindred, okay? Now, so Esau knew that they had a problem because, hey, I'm Abraham's seed too. Where's my blessing now? I want this land too, right? So he went and conspired with the descendants of Ishmael, which were the Egyptians living in the land of Egypt, right? Now, so, continue to read. What verse was that? Where were we at? We're 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 22?
22.
Okay, verse 22. 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 22. Read with us, please.
And Pharaoh said to him, "Well, what have you lacked with me, that you are now seeking to go to your own land?" And he answered, "No, but please let me go." And Elohim raised up another adversary against him, Rezon, son of Eladah, who had fled from his master Hadadezer, sovereign of Zobah, and gathered men to him, and became commander over a raiding band when David slew those of Zobah. And they went to Damascus and dwelt there and reigned in Damascus.
Okay, now, so where is Damascus at? We just read Damascus is in Syria. That's where it is. So we read that when King David had whipped up on those people, Syria was included in the number, weren't they? Okay, now let's continue to read.
And he was an adversary of Israel all the days of Shelomoah, besides the trouble that Hadad caused, and he was hostile to Israel and reigned over Aram. And it Jeroboam, son of Naboth, an Ephraimite, from Seridah, whose mother's name was Zeruah, a widow, also lifted up a hand against the sovereign. And this is what caused him to lift up a hand against the Shelomoah had built Milo, repairing the breaks in the city of David, his father. And the man Jeroboam was a brave man. And Shelomoah, seeing that the young man was doing his work well, made him the officer over the compulsory labor of the house of Joseph. And it came to be at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem that the prophet Ahiah and Shelomite met him on the way, and he was wearing a new garment, and the two were alone in the field. And you want me to continue?
Oh yes, this is very important. Go keep reading.
And Ahiah took hold of the new garment that was on him and tore it into 12 pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And said to Jeroboam, take for yourself 10 pieces, for their sake Yahweh, even he was Israel. See, I am tearing the rein out of the hand of Shelomo, and shall give 10 tribes to you. But he shall have one tribe for the sake of my servant David, for the sake of Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen out of all tribes of Israel. Because they have forsaken me and bowed themselves to Ashtoreth, the mighty one of Sidonians, to Mash, the mighty one of the Moabites, and to Milcom, the mighty ones of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways, to do what is right in my eyes, and my law, and my right ruling, as did his father. But I do not take all the reins out of his hand, because I have made him ruler all the days of his life for the sake of my servant David, whom I chose, because he guarded my commands and my laws. And I shall take the rein out of his son's hand and give it to you, the 10 tribes. But to his son I give one tribe, so that my servant David shall always have a lamp before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen for myself, and to put my name there. So I take you, and you shall reign over all that your being desires, and you shall be sovereign to Israel. And it shall be, if you obey all that I command you, I shall walk in my ways, and do what is right in my eyes, to guard my laws and my commands, as my servant David did. Then I shall be with you and build for you a steadfast house, as I did David, and shall give Israel to you.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
That's good. Now, so what did we just read? We just read what we said. Esau had fled into Egypt, and he had seed remain in Egypt. And when he found out that King David was dead, he wanted to come back because he was afraid of David. David was a mighty warrior and champion. You wasn't winning no battle there, not under his leadership. You wasn't. So when his son came along, King Shlomo, who was a pretty boy, he wasn't a warrior. He was more of a player, a ladies' man. And how many of y'all know lovers are not fighters? They only good for loving. They're not good for fighting. I'm a lover, not a fighter. David was a killer. He was a master at the martial arts, if you will. Okay. Now Shlomo was another story. You know, he was into the girl thing. You know, and I'm not saying that all guys that are into girls can't fight. What I'm saying is most in general, most of the guys that are the champions, the military guys, you know, they study warfare. They warfare equipped, right? So when David died, he came back to the land of Israel thinking that, you know, I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna get this land because, you know, after all, you know, my brother stole my birthright, so I'm gonna get it back. And so on that note, in the 11th chapter, the same 11th chapter, there was a verse that my issue read that kind of makes you see something that most of us have never seen before. And 11, because we identified that King David had made all of the house of Esau and Moab, Ammon, all of the cousins that was his cousins, he had made them his servants. Now, when we read in the book of I think Deuteronomy, we didn't read that, but it talked about if a man have a Hebrew servant, right? How do you have a Hebrew servant? We all are not supposed to be serving each other, but somebody's got to be a Hebrew servant. So who were the Hebrew servants? The Hebrew servants were the children of Ammon, Moab, Mount Seir, Edomites, all those. They were the servants. So now we find in the 11th chapter of 1 Kings, verse 11, and 11, he says, now therefore, let's see, verse 11. Okay, 11. Wherefore Yahweh said to Shlomo, for as much as thou hast done this, thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and I will give it to your servant. Close the book. So who became the king of Israel of the 10 tribes? Edomite king. How you like me now? Now, it was the Edomite king that brought forth the apostasy in Israel, because why? Later on, the 2 Kings chapter 17, we find the king of Assyria took them into Assyrian captivity. So now who went into Assyrian captivity along with the Israelite that was still part of that kingdom? Edomites. So Edomites are Edomites, some Edomites to this very day are just as black as the Israelites are. And some of them might be posing as being an Israelite when actually they're an Edomite. I don't hear nothing but a pin dropping right now. But anyway, now let's get back. So in the 83rd chapter of Psalms, we find where it said that they have conspired against the descendants of what? Verse 6. We're in Psalms, back to Psalms 83, honey. 83 and verse 6. So we read verse, I'm going to read verse 6 again, then she's going to pick up at verse 7. The tabernacle of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes. So now we see that the Moabites didn't go to China and Japan, because here they're called the Moabites of, okay, the Ishmaelites of Moab. Now, the Israelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, or the children of Hagar, had become what? Confederate one with another, right? Now we have Gebal and Ammon, which is the other son of Lot through his daughter. Ammonites didn't go to Japan or China. They did what? Embraced and became a confederate with the Edomite clans, and they did what? Conspired against Israel. So at this point in present time, the Edomites had made covenant alliances with their cousins or their great uncles or whatever you want to call them, their kinfolks, to do what? Come back and take the birthright back from Yaakov. Now, we see here, it says, okay, Esau, okay, verse 7, go ahead, honey, verse 7. 83, Psalm 83, verse 7. We can close it up right here at the end of this chapter.
Gebal and Ammon and Amalek, Philistia, with the inhabitants of Zor. Asher also has joined with them.
Okay, stop right okay, stop right there. So we got Gebal, Ammon, Amalek, which is the Edomite, Philistines, or the Palestinians, because if we read last week, if you go back, you find out that Esau had took daughters of the Canaanites. So these people became now Edomite clans. Canaanites, who were black people. Not white people, Canaanites who were black people. Let me read that, because some of y'all say, well, brother, I don't believe that. They was white. Listen, dodo brain, don't be a dodo brain your whole entire life. Read the text. Let's go back. This is not for those of you who are not stubborn and stiff-necked when I make that comment. I'm talking about the stiff-necked, racist Hebrew who don't want to read the text and get an understanding. You want to follow what your false prophet have taught you from a kid. So it's embedded in your psyche. It's embedded in your bloodline. It's embedded in your system. And now you got to let the word of Yah deliver you from your racial prejudice, you stiff-necked, prejudiced black Hebrew. Give us a call. 312-927-4373. Now, let me get back. Okay, so now, where was I going to take you to? Help me out, honey. What I just mentioned before I went way off somewhere.
You broke up a little, honey, when you said that.
I broke up. Okay, all right. Well, let me see. It'll come back to my memory. But the Edomites had made an alliance. We're showing you that the Edomites had made an alliance. Oh, I was going to show you that Esau had married the Canaanites. Okay, now let's go to Genesis. Genesis by the sheep, and we're gonna close out with Psalms 83. But let's go to Genesis. Let's look at the table of I think it's chapter 36. I want to say I think it's 36.
Psalm 36.
No, Genesis 36. I think it is. I think. Let me just be sure. Right, chapter 36. That's going to show you that Esau had made covenant marriages with the same people that in the book of Judges chapter 3 that the Israelites made covenant with the people called Canaanites. Now, here we see that Esau had married those same people, which means that now we got an Edomite Canaanite clan, just like we had an Israelite Canaanite clan. So Genesis chapter 36, verse 1. I'll go ahead and read that, okay?
Thank you, me.
Now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan. What? Canaan being Ham's son, the Canaanites. Esau took daughters of Canaan, Adah, and the daughter of Elon, the Hittite. Oh, didn't Dawid take a woman who was a Hittite's wife? Uriah, the Hittite's wife? Here we see what's happened is Esau's trying to look like Israel, so he's doing the same thing that Israel did, right? Or actually, Dawid took the Hittite later on, but this is Esau was before. Okay, now here we see he takes a daughter of Canaanites, Adah, and Elon, the Hittite, daughter of Elon, the Hittite, and Aholibamah. That's a familiar name. The Most High uses Aholibamah when he speaks of his distaste for the nation of Israel. But here he says, Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zeboim, the Hivite, and Bashmath, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebaioth. So now we see Esau taking daughters of Canaan and taking daughters of Ishmael for wives and having children. Now we understand now why he had an alliance with Egypt, because his family had become a conspiracy, had become a union, had become a confederate with Ishmael's seed who lived in the land of Egypt, brothers and sisters of the jury. Do you hear me what I'm saying? Do you understand where I'm coming from? So we got to stop making Esau be the white man, because before we even get the Greeks in here, we got a Edomite clan mixture of African tribes. Okay? Now, let's look at it again. So Esau took the daughters of Canaanite, the Hittites, the Hivites, then Ishmael's daughters, who were Egyptians, who were black people, right? Then it says, Adah bore Esau Eliphaz, and Bathmath bore Ruel, and Aholibamah bore Yaush, and Yalam, and Korah. These are the sons of Esau, which were born unto him in the land of Canaan. You see, so Esau was living in the land of Canaan. So now when we talk about if a man takes a Hebrew servant as a wife, who are we talking about? We're talking about the children of Esau, the children of Ammon, the children of Moab, the children of all of those Ishmaelites who were servants under King Dawid, who was prophesied to be servants by the Most High. Because he told Yaakov, I have given them to be your servants, so you can take a wife of them, and you can buy them as a servant. Why? Because I gave them to be your servants. Not another Israelite. I gave the Hebrews descendants of Ishmael, descendants of Yaakov, descendants of Esau, to be his servants. Ammon, Moab, all of which are black people. Not whites, black people. Now, let's go back to Psalms 83. I just wanted to bring that out because that helps to clarify who Esau is, right? Now, let me continue with that because I want to bring clarity to something I said about Esau's land. Now, so Psalm 36 and said, Esau took wives and his sons and his daughters and all the persons of his house and his cattle and his beasts and all the substance which he had got in the land of Canaan and went into a country from the face of Yaakov his brother, which meant what? He started a kingdom because he wanted to get his birthright land back. See that? Do you see it? The word is clear. You can't make Esau be something that he's not. The word is clear. He went to a land with Canaanites. He went to a land with Ishmaelites. He went to a land where the Moabites and the Ammonites had made a confederacy with them because he wanted his birthright back. And all these people were black brothers and sisters. Black as black could be. Not white. Now, so here we see, this is long overdue because I was going to do a lesson called Esau Amplified and Decoded. Esau Amplified, Decoded, Exposed, the whole 9 yards. We exposed who Esau is right here. You'll never have a question again in life and say, well, who is Esau? You'll know. And the Greeks are also have become in confederate with Esau because they conquered Egypt. Not all of Esau became the Greeks, but only a certain clan. Because some of them remained in Canaan and lived amongst the Israelites, but were servants. That's a whole nother lesson, right? Now, let me get back. Okay, now. So, where was that? Verse 7. For their riches were, Esau took wives and sons and the daughters and the persons in the house, cattle and all his beasts and all the substance, and had he gotten in Canaan and had went into a country from the face of his brother Yaakov. Okay, now. And for their riches were more than that might dwell together, and the land wherein they were strangers could not bear them because of their cattle. Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. Now go to the generation. We're going to deal with that on the next lesson. Let me close out in Psalms 83, and we can close this lesson out for the Shabbat, and then we'll come back next Shabbat and we'll do some more with Esau, amplified, decoded, exploded. Okay, now 83. All right, I'm gonna read this out. My Isha read very good today. She's tired reading remotely. I know she's tired, ready to lay down and get a nap. But now 83 says, so the tabernacles of Edom, verse 6, Psalms 83, verse 6, and of the Ishmaelites of Moab, the Ishmaelites of Moab, the Ishmaelites of Moab, the Ishmaelites of Moab. I said that because I wanted to sink in. And the Hagarenes, or the Hagarites, Gebal, Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre or Sor, which became what? The place Tyre, which is a place by the coast. Okay? Now, Asher, which is the Assyrian, also is joined with them. They have helped the children of Lot, Selah. So, Lot didn't go to Japanese, Lot didn't go to China, Lot was right, children was right there in the land trying to take the possession from the people of Yaakov, the Israelites. Why? Because he made a confederate with the Edomites, and so guess what? They're there to do what? To make sure that the Israelites don't get what was promised to them from the mouth of their father, Esau. All right, now let me close it out. So he says, Asher is joined with them. Now, remember I just told you in 2 Kings, I'm not going to go over, we'll say this for the next session. In 2 Kings chapter 17, when the northern tribe, after Solomon's servant got the 10 tribes and corrupted them and caused them to be taken out the land and brought into Assyrian captivity, that's when the Assyrians helped. So how did they help? How did the Assyrians help? Can you hear it? Can you feel it? The Assyrians took the Israelites out of the land because Esau made them break the covenant so they could be snatched up out the land like a bad habit. So you're mad at the wrong people. You're mad at the white man when you should be mad at your own people for doing what? Making covenants with people who would cause them to lose their inheritance. That's all I'm going to share with this lesson, and we're going to continue on this lesson on next Shabbat. Until that time, may the blessings of the Most High Yah be with you and your family. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Say shalom, honey.
Shalom, Israel.